Well, I'll do a little focus work here.
One night, my family decided to watch a comedy action movie. I can't tell you how it ended because we only got through about 15 minutes of it before we turned it off. It was within that first 15 minutes that we watched scenes with nudity, profanity, and adult content. How many of you have ever turned off a movie because your family deemed it too inappropriate for you to watch? This movie we watched was PG-13 rated. Due to its given rating, we believed it would be okay for my family to watch, seeing as my sister was nearly 12 and I was almost 16. We turned off this movie because we deemed it too mature for my younger sister and I to watch with my parents. The film and television industry give ratings to movies and TV shows that help guide us in what will be presented in a picture. The standards and rules for the current ratings are as follows. G stands for general audiences. This rating does not include sex or nudity, substance abuse, or realistic or non-cartoon violence. PG for parental guidance suggested does not include substance or physical abuse, but allows mildly strong language and some violence. PG-13 stands for parents strongly cautioned and are not suitable for children under 13. It allows for nudity that's not sexual, swear words that are used sparingly in intense violent scenes but must be bloodless. R stands for restricted audiences and does not allow for anyone under 17 to be admitted without an adult present. R ratings allow for strong language, violence, nudity for sexual purposes, and drug abuse. Just like the example earlier, ratings are not always accurate or appropriate for the content shown on screen. There are many movies that have questionable content like profanity, violence, and sexual and adult concepts. Many pictures touch on topics that are too mature for its given rating, but there are no examples in the rating description that cover controversial topics like religion, sorcery, or politics. Some movies can even take things too far and show things that are a bit too scary for younger children. For example, the popular Harry Potter movies are given a PG-13 ratings, but their scenes are so dark or frightening that may be too much for 13-year-olds to handle. Another example of PG-13 is Twilight Breaking Dawn, which contains mild but sexual scenes with partial nudity, which does not follow the PG-13 standard that may be too much for some teens. Oftentimes, filmmakers create movies with a certain age limit in mind, but they aren't always accurate in sticking to that appropriate guideline. Even in some animated movies, there may be content that will be discussed or explained to a younger audience. For example, Disney's Pocahontas. This movie is given a PG rating and tells a historical story of colonial America and Native Americans. While it's overall clean and mild on violence, this movie touches on more mature concepts such as racism and war. And these topics are not even mentioned in the rating system. Also, another example, DreamWorks' Prince of Egypt has a PG-13 rating, or just PG rating. It recounts the biblical story of Moses and the 10 plagues of Egypt. Like Pocahontas, this movie is clean, but scenes in this movie suggest religion and slavery, and actually shows enslaved workers being beaten, which goes against the physical abuse standard. No matter the movie or the production company itself, the given rating is not always accurate in showing content appropriate for the given rating. As the film industry progresses, filmmakers and production companies have become more lenient in what they show on screen. Some movies with PG-13 ratings tend to slip in a bit more suggestive language, add a romance scene, or dramatize a battle sequence. They use this kind of content to get a point across, to make it more realistic, or simply to dramatize it. Filmmakers tend to adjust their movie in a way that allows it to meet a certain criteria for a specific rating, hoping it will attract a wider audience. For example, a movie that has a backdrop of the Civil War may show very violent scenes, but cut the actual bloodshed to allow for parameters of a PG-13 rating when it should be given an R rating. This may be why the system has become more relaxed over the years, because movie makers are trying to fit their inappropriate movies into a lower rating to promote that a wider audience could watch it and therefore make a bigger profit. Because of these recent changes, the rating system can often be misleading and allows for immature audiences to be exposed to topics they don't understand or could be afraid of. Movies that expose kids to mature content might cause audiences to start thinking that the shown content is not just okay to watch, but is actually real. While movies do show content that is relatable and could happen in real life, it is not usually to the extreme the movie takes it. Films are made simply to entertain, and ratings do not always help us decide what's appropriate to watch. Ratings were created to help us determine what is safe for certain audiences. Over time, movie and TV ratings have become so lenient and unhealthy that we need to reevaluate our movie standards. We need a more accurate way to properly rate movies, a more determinative system that gives us a more accurate rating and will determine how much violence there should be, the number of cuss words, and will take controversial matters into consideration in a given movie rating. The bottom line being that we need a new system to safeguard us from watching a movie that we ultimately have to turn off due to its misleading rating.